Welcome to the Healthy Careers Podcast, where we help healthcare professionals succeed on purpose. I'm your host, Madison Loomis, and today I am super excited about our guest. Patrick Desamours has been a PA for over 10 years, and he is somebody that I think incredibly high of, mainly because I found him through LinkedIn and his positivity posts through the Transradiant newsletter, which is centered around work-life balance and finding your professional stance, I guess, when it comes to your mindset. And this is something that is so important, as I think that burnout is so real amongst healthcare professionals. It is an emotionally heavy position to be in. As a PA, as a physician, as an NP, as a PT, the list goes on. You are dealing with other people's problems all day long. And so this podcast is dedicated to helping you to prevent burnout, whether that is a proactive measure or a reactive measure. He is going to talk about 5 steps that have helped him to build a career where he has balance and he feels like he's able to show up at his best every single day. Stay tuned, and thank you so much for listening. So I'm super excited today to have Patrick with me because he is somebody that I have been connected with on LinkedIn. Hopefully one day we'll get to meet in person, but he is like the king of all things when it comes to optimizing your career, finding balance, and falling in love again with what you do. And I also joke that he has enough credentials and careers to literally spell out the alphabet. So I want to first talk about that. But first, welcome to the podcast, Patrick.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to join today and have this conversation with you. I'm very excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. So you are well known on media platforms because of your Transradiant newsletter, which I love because I think it spreads so much positivity and kind of keeps people in the game when they're having those rough days as healthcare providers to understand not only why they got into doing what they do, but also just feeling motivated to keep on going, right? To feel like they've got that purpose there. So I want to talk about all of that. And this episode, we're going to dive deep into really having actionable steps, not just talking about it, but doing something about it when it comes to the burnout rate in healthcare and how we can proactively and or reactively fix that for ourselves as providers, whether you are a PA, an NP, or just in healthcare in general. So I kind of want to kick things off by not only introducing Patrick and his credentials. He's a PA. He's also he's got his MBA and has served a lot of time in leadership, and he's a part of a lot of different advocation groups and everything else. So tell me a little bit more about that.
About the credentials or?
Yeah, about it all. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a PA. I'm a hospitalist PA. I've been practicing for over 10 years now. I do have an MBA. First year within my career, I realized I want to be able to not only care for patients, but also support physicians and PAs and NPs that I work with. And one of the ways to do that is to be an administrator, to be a healthcare leader. And in that, with passion for management, passion for finance, I pursued my MBA in 2016, 2017. I graduated. And I also have a senior fellow of hospital medicine. Society of Hospital Medicine is the number one organization in the world when it comes to hospital medicine. I just want to invest. I wanted to invest a lot in my career, invest in what I do every day, invest in patient care in terms of continuing education and continuing networking with other hospitalists. And the Society of Hospitals Medicine gave me that platform. First, I had a fellow, then now I have a senior fellow. And then there is the other title you see. It's mainly for quality care, quality documentation, and that is why I pursue that particular
Okay.
certification. It's mainly held by physicians and nurses, but PAs and Ps can do it as well. It's healthcare quality and management
Okay.
certification.
Yeah.
It's a test you sit down for, you have to study for. It's extremely difficult, but definitely anyone can do that. It shows that you show commitment in quality care, commitment in management, commitment in quality documentation. And I've
Mm-hmm.
mentored physicians, I've mentored NPs, I've mentored PAs in how to document properly and help them make better choices for their career in patient care.
That is awesome. I actually have never heard of that when it came to, like you said, I think it's definitely more popular with nurses and such. But I also think that's important if you are a leader, because there's so many jokes about that when you look at your notes, when you go in as a consumer of the healthcare, right? When you've gone to the doctor and what they've typed up as far as what you've told them. And then also just focus on the quality of things when so much has shifted to just be kind of like the rat race around how many patients can you see and how quickly can you do it, rather than the outcome and the patient satisfaction rates and how people feel in providing that care.
Right. So, I always tell my colleague, documentation is critically important, and
Yeah.
there's no care without proper documentation. It's like telling a
Mm-hmm.
story. I don't need to talk to you. All I need to see is the notes, and the
Mm-hmm.
note have to reflect the care you provide. Um,
Yeah.
it's very important to document properly. It's very important to document what happened when the patient told you, so that
Yeah.
there are so many people who see the note you write. There is the other clinicians that see it. There is
Mm-hmm.
the case management that see it. There is the administrator that see it. There are the lawyers that see it, and the patient
Yeah.
themselves actually see it. So
Yeah.
it's
That's
a way
true.
to communicate what happened, what you did, and it's an art. You have to learn it. You have to invest
Yeah.
in it and understand it and do it properly.
100%. Yeah. I think too, you see that on the side of what I do as well when I talk to candidates or when I talk to clients. It is the active listening skill and being able to translate what you need to make note on for follow-ups, right? Like if I talk to a candidate and they tell me, I'm not looking for a job, but in 6 months I am, and here's what I'm looking for. If I don't know what those things are and I reach out to them in 6 months, but I don't have that information with me, then it kind of makes me look bad, right? And that person doesn't feel like they
Right.
were listened to. And it's the same thing in healthcare. So I think that's huge. Awesome.
Yeah, to give you perspective, I was talking to Wilson Walker maybe
Hmm.
2 weeks ago, and this
Okay.
this guy I talked to him 3 years ago. Last time I talked to him, and
Wow.
he said, "You Patrick, right?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Patrick Desamours, right?" "Oh, I talked to you on March 20th, 2020,
Hmm.
around 9 p.m. You remember that? Like something like this. It's just
Yes.
very specific. It's clear. He's in front of a computer. He saw the note. That's what it is. We have to
Yeah.
be able to remember what happened, and the way to do that is to document it properly. And you don't have to be a
Hmm.
clinician to do that. In any profession, you have to,
Yeah.
to your point, you have to document properly.
Yes. And I worked as a waiter, a waitress, however you want to say it, for years and years before becoming a recruiter. And I remember a lot of the places that I worked, you get so used to the menu that you can just, if somebody orders something, you know how to type it into the, POS system, and you know the questions to ask and whatever. It just becomes like
Right.
second nature. And I would argue this also happens in any career where you feel like, I've got it down, right? Like I know how to do this. I don't need to do the basics because it's just second
Right.
nature to me. But then I worked for a really top dollar steakhouse, and there it was like, no, 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 no. We write everything down to like if they want extra salt, if they want drawn butter, because that is the level of care that they're paying for. This isn't just a quick in and out place, grab a burger and be done. And I think that,
Right.
like you're saying, translate into every industry of just your attention to detail and making people feel good and remembered.
Yes.
Awesome.
And that is part of transgradient mindset. It's all about
Yeah.
mindset. You have
Mm-hmm.
you have to know the game you're playing, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
know the rules and make
Yeah,
sure you follow the rules and play the game right.
definitely. Yeah, I want to talk more about the newsletter. So talk about that a little bit. Like, how did you start that? What inspired you to do that? And it clearly has had a lot of success in falling.
Yeah, I think, I just looked up what happened in the past 3, 4 years, especially in my life
Mm-hmm.
and in our country, in the world, and other clinicians around me. Some have
Mm-hmm.
done it very well, very successfully, others not so much. And it comes down to one thing: it's mindset. And
Yeah.
it's a positive mindset. And the transcendent mindset is just that. It's a positive mindset where you so focus, laser focus on your goal and objectives, nothing can stop you.
Yeah.
If you get your mindset right, nothing can stop you. It's not that you're
Mm-mm.
not gonna fight challenge. You will be challenging. There will be challenge along the way, absolutely. But you don't. You stay in course, so to
Yeah.
speak. And
Yeah. Your
based on
mindset is
that,
what brings you back.
right. So based on that, I realized I've overcame so many challenges, and people usually ask me, Patrick, how? How do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
How you go up regardless of what happened, a smile on your face, you're caring for patient, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing get on the way. It's that transcendent mindset. And I wanted to extend it beyond the
Yeah.
walls of the hospital, and I wanted to extend it
Okay.
beyond my colleagues, give other people an opportunity to know that, hey, listen, um, you don't have, you don't have to be negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you experience the worst already happened. But
Yeah.
when your mindset and what you want and where you're heading and the step you're
Mm-hmm.
taking where you want to get, nothing should really stop you. Not yourself, not your family, not your employer, not a friend, regardless of who they are. We all have them. We all have
Yep.
employees. We've dealt with terrible people. You should focus on you, where you head,
100%.
and your mindset should be what guides
Yeah.
you. So
I agree. And I
that's the
mean, from
first.
my own experience in following your posts and following all of that, is there have been mornings where, as a business owner, things happen and you can't control them. And you're like, okay, people are unreasonable. Sometimes people are very unkind. But if I stay true to who I am and I keep bringing the same consistency, then I cannot fail. Right. And I've seen your posts
Right.
where it encourages just that. And it's a really good reminder. And I think that's why you've had so much success with that, is because you don't just post that. I think you truly live that out from what I've seen and knowing you. And I know we're not like close friends or anything like that, but the conversations that we've had, it's obvious in your actions that you've been able to really adapt that and be a huge reason for your success. So awesome. Great. And I want to break down kind of the whole actionable steps piece of how to get to that point, because I think in concept everybody's like, yeah, this sounds great, I want that too, and I want to be more positive, but how do I do that? Because life hits you in every which way every day. And how do you set the tone for yourself so that you can actually get to that point where you say, I live a positive lifestyle and I am a positive person and I do carry that mindset with me? And I think applying that also to a huge problem in healthcare right now, which is burnout. I mean, I talk to people who
Right.
work so hard to get into the position that they're in, whether they're a doctor, they're a PA, an NP, a PT. And then it's like within a few years, they want out and they've spent all
Right.
this money on student loans, number one. But they've also worked incredibly hard to get to this point, and you hate to see them walk away. And so you figured out ways to master not walking away and facing the
Right.
burnout, whether it's a proactive thing or a reactive thing. I would love for you to break down kind of those 5 steps for us and maybe talk a little bit on each one of them.
Right. Very good. So, I think what happened with burnout is many of the issues we have no control over. Right? You don't have control over your employee culture and your employer culture, and your employer culture can determine whether you burn out or not.
Yes.
Right? You have no 100%. You have absolutely no control, right? And there is that, and there is you, right? The important thing about our brand, we tell our brand how to react to things. Meaning you can control yourself. You can control your mindset. You can control your brand. Number one, you have to remember your why.
Yeah.
Why are you a PA? Why are you a physician? Why are you an NP? Why are you a PT? What brought you here? Why did you go through all this schooling to be where you are? That's number one. Number one. Number two, you have to know what you want. What do you want? When you wake up in the morning, every morning, what do you look forward to? Who are you doing the things that you're doing for? Are you doing them for yourself? Are you doing them for your family? It's important to know that. So that is part of the transradiant mindset, right? And then once you do that, you have to go through the 5 the 5 strategies to achieve a work-life balance and deal with burnout, which is you must set boundaries. Because you know your why. You're not going to let anyone comes in and determine your why for you. So you know it already. Yeah. So everything has to be aligned with your why. So you set your boundaries. When you're at work, your employer pay you to perform a job, do it to the best. Do the best work, right? Do the best work you can ever do. Once you leave work, you disconnect. Not take work out. Right?
Yeah.
You say no to extra commitments. Hey, it's 8:00. I'm at home. I can't come right now. This time right now is for my family.
Right.
This time right now is for my kids. So you prioritize your personal time.
Yeah.
Right? This is key. I've seen people where they want to please so much that they forget their own priorities. You don't do that. It's not unkind. It's actually kind to let people know I cannot do that, because you need to be kind to your family. You don't let somebody else suffer for somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Then once
you determine... too... Sorry, go ahead. I did not mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I was just going to bounce off of what you were saying with that. Is I see a lot of people, especially earlier in their career, really struggle with this because they want to please. And so when I talk to new grads or I talk to people that are exploring things, I always tell them, you have to pick not just the job. You have to pick a boss and you have to pick a culture where you feel like those things are going to be honored. Because so many times, either new grads, the employers know that they're hungry, they're eager, and they'll overwork. And so there's no clear set boundaries in their negotiations for their contract. They might be told that they're going to be working 3 days in the OR. They end up working all the time. They're on call, they're rounding, and then they get burnt out. And it's like, well, you didn't really establish the boundaries, right? And if we had done that from the start, we wouldn't be here. So I think it's also educating people who haven't done that of like, it's okay to do so. And that will actually attribute to your longevity in the career and your ability to show up at your best every day, rather than feel resentful, feel taken advantage of, and be burnout.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I've seen it quite too often.
Yes.
And you must know what you want in some And number 2, you have to focus on those priorities. You have to identify what is more important to you. What task today, right now at work, what are your priorities? Which patient do you see first? Which patient do you see last? Which patient needs your attention right now? Which nurse needs your attention right now? Which one is pressing matter, right? And
Right.
then the one you can't do, you just delegate the rest
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much you can do. And it's
Yeah.
it's it's the same for your personal life too. Some things, your spouse will probably help you with it because you don't have the time.
Right.
So it's critically important. Then
Yes.
there is number
100%. I think, and I think this changes throughout your career because when you're young and you're starting out and you might be single, you might have more time to dedicate to your career. And so you might be okay with it. You might say, I'm okay with kind of this hustle culture right now. I'm, earning my kind of spot, if you will, and my stripes and stars. But then you might have a family and you're like, okay, well, my priorities have changed. And that's okay too. I think a lot of people get hung up on that transitional period and that if I do this or I focus more on this, it's going to take away from that. But I would argue that as time goes on in your career, it gets easier for you to do the things that before you were working so hard to learn, overcome, improve. And so I think there's kind
right,
of that natural shift, but you have to know that and say, like, it's okay for me to want to go home to my family. And it's okay for me to not feel like I have to be at work 24/7 or be on call for anybody that needs me or anybody else that has set priorities. I don't have to take the downfall of that.
right. Um, I think what we don't realize, life evolves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And look at ourselves. At one point, we're just little kids. Look at us
Yeah.
today. And in 10 years, we're going to look back and say, hey, listen, did we really have this conversation? We could have done better, right? Or it happens. You always feel like you can do better because this is human nature. You have to
Right.
open to that, right? And then there is
Yes.
the invest in yourself. You have to invest in yourself continuously. When I studied earlier, I talked about, a different path you can take, but that includes investing in yourself. If
Yeah.
you're a professional, if you're a healthcare provider, if you're a physician, NPPAs, you commit to learning for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
In orthopedics, you need to know the latest thing about orthopedics. If you're in hospital
Mm-hmm.
medicine, you need to know the updates in hospital medicine. You have to at least attend a conference once a year. Whatever
Right.
field, dermatology, neurology, that's where you need to be every year so you
Mm-hmm.
can learn uh, what's going on in your field. And number three,
100%.
to continue with the series, number three is cultivate positivity. You have to
Mm-hmm.
cultivate a positive mindset. And how do you do that? And most people say, how can I be positive? Yeah, there is. You're actually alive. You're breathing.
Yeah.
You're not in a hospital bed, or
Right.
it could be worse. Practice
Mm-hmm.
gratitude, like the smallest things in life. This opportunity I have today to be in this podcast with you, I cherish it. I value it so much uh, because you give me that platform. You give me that
Yeah.
opportunity. This is something I appreciate. And surround yourself with people who support you. Spe- I believe you support my work. That's why you give me that invitation to be in this platform. And I want to support your work. That's why I accepted to be in this platform, right? So
Yeah.
we need that. We need that. It's
Yeah.
it's important.
I think positivity too. There's a quote, and I don't know it exactly, but it's like if you see somebody that needs a smile and or lend them yours or something like that, to where everybody has their dog days. Everybody's going to have times where they feel like there's nothing to be positive about. But if you're living and breathing and having opportunities, you're doing a lot better than many people. And if you've got a job and you've got a roof over your house and you don't have to worry when your next meal is coming, then you're doing better than most people. And I think a lot of times too, it's just the influence, and we won't go down the rabbit hole of that, of just the comparison factor of what they have or what they're doing. And it's all irrelevant because the starting places and the ending places are all different as well. And, your measure of success is going to be different than the next person's, but staying positive and knowing when somebody else might need your positivity is also key, I think. And like you said, cultivating it, not just being positive, but also creating that positiveness rather than just saying, yeah, I'm good. I'm positive. Because there's other people that need it too.
Yes, absolutely. I think the other thing too, many people think that being positive means that nothing negative ever happened, or you don't recognize
Right.
negativity, or you don't recognize anything bad or anything bad ever happened to you. In fact, the most positive people that I know, the worst actually happened to them,
Yeah. It's
right?
so true.
If pe-
Yeah.
yeah, if I were to tell you certain things that happened to me, you'd be like, dude, really? How?
Yeah.
So you have to make a choice. You let
This is.
you let whatever you absorb, what you take in, cannot be something negative. It has to be something positive. And
Yes.
when you have these small wins, you celebrate
Mm-hmm. That is true. I think a lot of people, especially in the healthcare profession, because it is such a hierarchy of, who has that seat at the table, right? And everybody's a hustler and everybody's trying to be smarter than the next guy in the room. And I think a lot of times that culture can breed us to, and I'm not a clinician, but I, work in a different realm with being a business owner. It can make you feel like you are inadequate, or it can make you feel like you have to be in constant competition rather than just celebrating the small things and not always celebrating the MBA. That's like the big shiny thing that everyone's like, congratulations. It's like, what brought you up to that? What got you there? What did you learn? How is that going to then impact the people around you? And I think those are the small wins that should be celebrated more and often aren't because they're not the big fancy things or the title.
You know, it's it's unfortunate that you said that, and it's a reality. And
Yeah.
you know, my perception and my mindset is this:
Mm-hmm.
if you think you're better than anybody else, you are very insecure individual.
Yeah.
Only insecure people think that they're better than somebody else.
Right.
And I'll tell you something. Um, I was having a very terrible day,
Mm-hmm.
and I was walking out the hospital one day, and one of the security guard, and I value people by
Yeah.
nature, and the security guard, this lady looked at me and said, "You're a gardener. You know that?" I just stopped me by saying, at that moment, she said that to me. I needed it the most.
Yeah.
The reason why is because the CEO of the hospital is not more important than the
The
security guard to me.
security. No.
In fact, I spend more time with them. And in fact, I actually interact with them more than
Right.
the top executive in the house. That's how powerful people
Yeah.
are.
And if you measure somebody by their accomplishments rather than by them just being a person, and I think you lose out on so many opportunities with people. You lose out on conversations and stories and lessons and things that you won't get always from just focusing on the important people, as our society would deem them. And
Right.
it's so interesting. I think back to when I actually worked in a nursing home, and
Mhm.
a lot of them had Alzheimer's or dementia. And it was some of the best days of my life. And most people would look at that and say, why do you spend that time? It was some of the happiest, most joyous stories that I could tell of people that were just thankful for another day. And they had lived and they had learned and they were so grateful for all of it. And it puts you in perspective of, wow, okay, all of this, little minutia stuff that we worry about day to day is really not important.
Right. It's we we do not. I think we take ourselves for granted
Yeah.
in many fronts, right? Many fronts. We look at ourselves and look at somebody else and thinking that that person got it together better than we do. And when in fact, when in reality, you got it better than that person. And I think, compare yourself with somebody else is the wrong thing to do. You should never do
Yeah.
that. But you should
Right.
always wake up in the morning, look at yourself, compare yourself to yourself, and, give
Try to
yourself
do
some
better.
presence and try to do better and say, you know what, Patrick, you woke up this morning. Yesterday was tough. I'm ready. You ready for a new day? Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
get it right.
Be your own hype man.
It's good. Yes, let's do it. And nothing can stop you. But if you look at yourself and look at somebody else and you're trying to compare, man, it's energy drain. That energy can
It
be used in
is.
so many different ways, so many
Yes,
positive ways. Just that.
exactly. Awesome. Okay, we derailed a little bit, but so we went through set boundaries, focus on priorities, cultivate positivity.
I'm
What's
coming
your
to you.
next actionable
I'm coming.
steps?
Yes, I'm coming to you. I was just making the point to boost whatever you're saying. But anyway, the next one is so to stay on course. To stay on course, number 4 is manage your stress. Right,
Yes.
very important. It's very important to have a system. If for all the APPs and physicians, you have to manage your patient list in certain pattern, and you follow that and
Yeah.
take small breaks. Do not skip lunch. If you're a foodie,
Yeah.
if you like to eat your lunch, do not skip it.
Yeah.
10 minutes, 15 minutes is not going to make the day go faster. You have to recognize that. But also, you have to keep moving. Exercise is important. Make sure
Yes.
you are active. If you do not like to go to the gym and get sweat and you don't like, that's not your life, that's okay. But give me the 10,000 steps at least.
Right.
On a regular basis, on a daily basis, at least 5 times,
Right.
right? 3 to 5 times a week. Make sure you do that. And then, try to find what works for you in terms of relaxation. For me, I love to pray. Prayer really
Yes.
give me this sense of being that it's something that I do multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Find that. If it's some people do yoga, some people do meditation, do that.
Mm-hmm.
And take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Go for a massage once a month. Schedule it and never miss it. Get your nails done. Buy this new makeup. Check out this new makeup spot. And then for the guys, get on a bike. Whatever works for you, right?
Whatever suits your fancy.
You must,
Yeah.
well, you must do it. You
Yeah.
must have something to look forward to. It doesn't have to be grandiose, a big trip, but it
Right.
has to be
Yeah.
something that is consistent.
And I think you mentioned something that's important because I think sometimes we do set kind of these unrealistic things that we'll do for ourselves. And then life gets in the way. If you've got kids and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to this spa retreat for a weekend once a month. And it's like, okay, what's the reality or practicalness of this? Probably not very much. But just those little things daily, and I'm the same way. My faith has allowed me to stay positive in many days that I just want to be negative so bad, but you just can't, and you've got to focus on that. And for me, exercise, fitness, walking, all the things, but for somebody else, it might be something else. It might be reading. It might be knitting. It might be pickleball, the new craze. But I think that is allowing yourself to have an identity outside of work and to do things that bring you joy that are not just career or money focused. Because that's why
Right.
we work, right?
Right.
To be able to do those things.
Right. That's right. That's right. Very good. And, number 5 is seek help.
Mm.
There will be some ways you can figure things out. And there will be some days you can't figure things out. And if or you may not be able to figure them out at all. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But seek help. Get a coach, for example. A coach can be so much of a life changing
Yes. Yes.
decision. It's amazing how people can help you see things from a different spectrum,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Or if you burn out so much to the point of being depressed, don't feel too big to seek out help. Get some help.
Yeah.
If you need some sort of counseling, if you need a therapist, invest in that.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to your
Yeah.
colleague. That colleague who's a champ. Talk to them. Hey, Patrick, how you doing? Hey, Madison, how do you do it? I'd love to be able to do the things that you do, but I don't know where to start and I don't know how to start.
Right.
Right? One of my colleagues told me, Patrick, why are you killing yourself? I'm not killing myself. I take pride in my work. I take pride in patient care. I love what I do. What I do,
Yeah.
a sense of being. But that colleague could have asked me, Patrick, how do you do it? I'm dragging my feet. But never asked me that. But for them, I'm killing myself, right?
Yeah.
I guess I should have been doing just the bare minimum. No, it's not me by nature.
It's not in your DNA. Yeah.
It's not in my DNA.
I don't know what
It
this
was
piece
not.
is like. Yeah. And I think too, with therapy, and I've been somebody, and I'm open about that as a young child, I struggled a lot with OCD and went through times where I was going to a therapist sometimes twice a week to help me to maneuver through that as a very confused kid, not knowing what's going on with my brain and why am I having these thoughts and why am I carrying out these compulsive behaviors. And then as an adult, there have been times I've gone through rough times where I was going through a divorce and I turned to therapy and I turned to my faith and I turned to things that helped me to go through it not alone, because you have to set your pride aside and know these people are here to help. And that's what they are good at. and they're on your side. They're not here to make you feel less than. They're there to help you get through. And I think the biggest thing is that pride. People don't want to admit there's a problem going on, or people don't want to feel inadequate. They don't want to feel like, oh, well, I can figure it out by myself. And then they get to a point where they're depressed. They're not seeing friends. They're not seeing family. They're, just a robot almost from day to day. And that's no way to live.
Right. Absolutely not. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people find themselves in situations like this. Whoever's listening, if you are in that spot, I think I encourage you to seek help.
Yes.
Probably change your entire life and save so much. So please do that.
Yeah. I love the t-shirts that they sell now that say like therapy is cool. So I think that's so
They
true.
are
I think
cool.
they are. I mean, in previous generations, it was like if you went to therapy, something was wrong with you. And I would say go to therapy even if you're not dealing with that, because sometimes it's just good to have a sounding board and to feel like, what you're feeling is valid, especially if you don't have that support system at home or you don't have a partner that you can go to and have those conversations with. Or even if you do, because sometimes you don't want to burden that person with all of your stuff every single day. But it is just so vital, especially in healthcare, because so much of what you see and deal with is very heavy emotional things, whether it's dealing with families and end of life care and chronic illness. I mean, just the stuff that you see is so tolling sometimes emotionally. And I think you're taught to kind of set it aside and separate it, but it's very real to what your career entails. And I think that deserves more conversation and attention.
Absolutely. I think, people have been through so much and our brain is so powerful. The amount of
Yeah.
things that we can tolerate is out of this world. And
Yeah.
we just let it pile up and pile up and pile up until one day we just explode.
Yeah.
What therapy is for you, it creates that balance,
Yeah.
And if you think of any successful business owner, any successful person, like can I can name a few: Bill Gates and Elon and
Hmm.
Mark and so forth. They
Yeah.
have a coach. Whenever they want to do something, they find out who's the best at it and have a coach help them do it.
Yeah.
We can do the same thing too. You don't have to have millions of dollars to invest in a coach.
No.
If there's something you'd like to accomplish, you feel like there's something missing. That something missing can be a coach that can help you achieve.
Yeah. And do you offer coaching? Is that something that you do within healthcare? I think so, right?
I do. I do. Very selective people who wants to achieve specific things, especially within
Right.
opening a practice or trying to be a locum hospitalist. I do help them set up and do that. For example, I remember I had a physician who was going through a tough time, and I looked at him one day, just so down, and I said, "What's wrong with you?" He just had a baby and he was confused about work. And I told him, hey, listen, I don't need next week. And we sat down and meet. And I
Hmm.
showed him, his potential, which he never realized.
Yeah.
And he called me about 2.5 years later and said, Patrick, in the past 2.5 years, I made 2.2 million dollars.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So
Wow.
yes, you know,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
incredible.
That's big money.
Big money, big money. Any physician,
Yeah.
um, APPs, you don't have to go through what you're going to wherever you are right.
Yeah.
You are wanted somewhere. There's a place that
Yes.
needs you right.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, if your job does not make you happy on Monday mornings, this life is too short for you to sit there for the sake of a resume date. Because so many people, well, I've only been here 2.5 years and won't that look bad on my resume? Who cares? As long as you've learned something and you've given it your all and you've got the skill set, it will transfer somewhere else. And if you've got a bad boss or a bad culture or no growth or poor salary, I mean, make the change because nobody's going to do it for you except you.
Right, right. I think, personally, I have a very old mindset in in, in,
Hmm.
s- in certain instances. For example, I like stability,
Yeah.
and I like to make an impact. Meaning,
Hmm.
when I'm working somewhere, I do not like. I think I get that from my dad. For example, my dad worked for this NGO many many years ago, and her former boss was a German lady.
Okay.
Just traveled from Switzerland, just came and spent a weekend at my dad's place with my dad, just with my
Hmm.
family, just because this is the type of connection we build over years as a family, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, I don't like switching jobs. I don't like, an extra five thousand
Yeah.
dollars just leave a job for it. I like to stay. But the reality is, you don't want to be somewhere that you're not wanted, regardless of
Right.
your values and certain things. You want to be in a place where, number one, that values you. Number two, that gives you an opportunity to grow. Number three, at a place where when you wake up every Monday morning, no one is taking your smile away from you, to your point. So I,
Yeah.
I love that mindset.
Yeah. Exactly. Awesome. And you made a point earlier on your post about this, and I think it's a great way to close things out is just you can't save lives if you're burnt out. You can't do it. You can't show up at your best if you are not at your best. So, how are
You,
you going
you
to help other
cannot.
people?
You cannot. You
And
cannot.
that's kind of everything boiled down to that one point of your why is most likely because you want to make an impact, right? For some people, it might be, oh, it's good money, it's a good career, it's in demand. But for most people, you would hope that it's that they wanted to make an impact, they wanted to help others. And you can't do that if you haven't helped yourself. You've got to fill that cup
Right.
up first.
Right. You know, Healthcare is extremely difficult. If
Hmm.
you're a healthcare provider, taking care of patients is hard. It's extremely hard. And
Yeah.
the reality is you were there to save lives.
Mm-hmm.
You must take care of yourself first so you can save lives.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not well, if you burned out, if you just have enough wherever you are, you cannot care for patients.
Yeah. No. I think it is also similar to any industry that you look at when you hire a physical, personal trainer. You want that personal trainer to also be doing the same things that they're training you on. And so as a healthcare provider, you want to feel like that person is showing up at their best every day. Nobody wants to go to the doctor and have somebody that feels like they don't want to be there with them, because then you're in a vulnerable state and you're not happy that you have to be there and they're not happy, and it's just not a pleasant experience. So I think everything that you said are certainly actionable things that people can do. And hopefully this will help someone that maybe is feeling like they're ready to get out of the healthcare industry, but still has that why statement and still has music left inside of them to stay. Try these things, see if it works, see if it helps. And if not, maybe Patrick can help you kind of get to further steps or look at other options.
Yes. I think if I have one in closing, no matter what you do, never forget your why.
Yeah.
The reason why you do it.
Mm-hmm.
That is your driving force. That is what keeps you going.
100%.
You must show up as your best. And sometimes being your best is not 100% yourself. You have to choose a place that allows you to be your best.
Yeah.
From day
and sometimes
one,
you've got to fake it until you make it.
That's it.
Awesome. Great. Well, this has been super helpful. I mean, even for me to kind of be reminded of these things in my own career, because I, as a business owner, sometimes find myself leaning more on the negative side than the positive side. And we both woke up, we were able to have this conversation and hopefully help others. And so that's a blessing in itself. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And again, hopefully this helps people. We will follow up with some more kind of outline of these steps if you're interested in them. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing these things, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Madison. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Careers Podcast. It is so fun talking to people like Patrick who have been in the game for a while and understand how to overcome things that everybody deals with as a healthcare professional. If you are looking for a job or open to hearing about what other opportunities might be out there, please do reach out to me, as my business, Advanced Scope Talent, help PAs, NPs, and MDs to find positions where maybe these things that we talked about are not achievable based on your employee culture or whatever else it might be. Outside of that, remember that therapy is cool, and we've got new episodes dropping in the next couple of weeks. Thanks so much.